So big aims don't require big starts, and I think this is an idea that's always fascinating and has been repeated enough to be cliche and trite. However, it's still very true. We often think of planning as this thing in which we need to develop perfect certainty before we act. So you have a project, I need to plan it out, and I have a goal, I need to plan it out, and then I can have certainty about how each action will play out, and then I can take those actions. But planning is helpful, but it's you can really only plan for the next step. And for big goals or big projects, it seems like there are hundreds of steps. I mean, for example, for you, you had our labs, hundreds of steps, and you couldn't even imagine planning each step along the way because you just didn't, there is no world that you would have perfect clarity for each of those steps. You actually had to walk along the bridge and allow the bridge itself to emerge. It's kind of like the old Taoist idea, walk and the path emerges. And I think it's very interesting. And I think we can apply that to change for ourselves too. We both work with a lot of people who want to change themselves and the way that they act and all that, which is valiant in the context of self-acceptance. But in the same regard, change happens one step at a time, and we can't plan that. And so, one of the things that we've talked about, and I always say, is that, that you have no hope in eating well if you can't make a healthy snack. You have no hope in being able to sit down and do 2 hours of focused work if you can't do a 5-minute meditation or a 1-minute meditation. How are you going to do 2 hours of work if you can't do 1 minute of nothing? And so, I think that those little steps we often take for granted, and when we want to provide this big action that changes our lives, or this big decision that really changes everything, but it just doesn't seem to be that way. Change doesn't seem linear. It seems kind of emergent. Driven by the moment and driven by your actions in those moments.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so relevant right now, right? As we turn the year and everybody has this New Year's resolution, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do X, and we always seem to make it like a year's worth of change. I'm going to read 25 books. Mm-hmm. Well. Okay, what's book one? Right? I hope it's something interesting because you're going to not read. If you don't read book one, you can't read book 25. Mm-hmm. But we think we need to make this grandiose change. We need I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to go every day. I'm going to eat only good things. I'm going to stop drinking on the weekends. Right? All of these things.
I'm going to do this from zero.
I'm going to take all of the things I dislike about myself right now, and I'm going to flip them on their head. I'm going to change them all right now. Mm-hmm. That's not real, right? But it goes to your point. Well, what was the opening line that you said? Big
aims don't require big starts.
Yes, right? So I think it's important to remember that. Big aims require simple steps. Mm-hmm. And when we started our labs, I remember sitting on the beach just talking about this concept of what would we need to do to start our second business. Okay, well, I'm interested in this type of stuff. I think it'd be really fun. We've been playing around with our cold tub in the basement. Well, let's start writing. And we started writing down. And the cool thing about what I'm trying to explain to you is that we in no way, shape, or form wrote this full business plan that started with, on day one, we're going to do this, and then it's going to look like this, and then we're going to have what the prescriptions will be? It'll be, refresh and reset, and it'll be 15 minutes versus 45 minutes. It's going to cost us $45 and all this stuff. And we did end up writing all that stuff down, but it didn't come linear. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like this, it all came in at once, and it was we just took a step towards it. Mm-hmm. And started talking about it. And then we were like, oh, that's a good idea. Write that down. And we would write it down. And then it was almost like building a puzzle. I mean, 6 or 7 weeks went by, and we're like, oh, now that we've got the idea of the way we want it to look, like, what do we do next? Okay, this, right? And it was just this step after step after step after step. And I'm really glad that it went that way, because if I had just said, I want to have a new company open at the end of the year. My New Year's resolution is to have a new company open at the end of the year. I would have had no shot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have just taken the step. And actually, as I'm kind of thinking about this, as I'm talking about it, I'm reminded of when we first tried to open our first business. We didn't have any money. And the thing you need to open a business is you need money, right? Mm-hmm. Or a backer or something, or some way to get the money. And what you had to do is you had to put together a business plan, mm-hmm. which I had never done. And ultimately, even though I did that, I put together the business plan and we wrote it all down and we did exactly what we said, it didn't even come anywhere near what actually happened. Mm-hmm. But we convinced somebody else to give us the money based on this plan that we wrote down. That somebody was the bank, of course. Mm-hmm. But then once we got it, that didn't go that way at all. There was still a bazillion things that came up that were not on my business plan, had no idea about, totally blindsided us. And it's like the same concept that you're saying. Right? You can decide you want to do all these things, but you have no idea until you start doing them.
Right. We get so lost in the, in the grand goals, right, that we lose sight of those like tiny actions. And you actually even started your example with our labs in the middle of the steps, like you've already walked a mile into the bridge and the fogged bridge, and you have a mile worth of clarity because you already had the cold tub in your basement, so you were already interested in the thing. And you had, maybe you go back even further to the start of the bridge when you first showed up, at Mike's workshop thing there, right? Yeah. And same thing, we were talking with Jason, who owns Millennium Fitness, fascinated by the idea that he just started groups in Buttonwood Park, right? Like fitness little groups. He didn't have anything besides a post on Facebook, right? And again, that's even in the middle of the bridge too, because he had already been, passionate enough about fitness to understand that, to be able to lead a class like that. And so, I think it's so interesting. We have these like huge, massive visions, but we just have no concept of how to get there, and we love to tyrannize ourselves and say, well, just gotta do it. I hear that all the time. I just need more willpower. Someone said it to me this morning. I just need more willpower. That's all it takes. And I'm like, it's not how that works. That's tyranny. We don't like that, whether that's from the king, whether that's from the president, whether that's from mom or dad. It doesn't matter that it's ourselves. We dislike demands. And so the best way to get a win-win here is to negotiate with yourself. If your goal over this new year, we make our New Year's resolution and people think about it just because the calendar turns. If your resolution is to aim to eat healthier, then it doesn't need to look any way than just the next time you eat, right? The next time you eat, can we make this a little bit more balanced? Can we eat a little slower? Can we be a little bit more mindful? Can we do those things versus, oh, I need to eat everything differently. I need to change everything. It's too much and it's going to fail, and it almost never works. In certain cases, we see the success stories, the 1 in 100 million where people change everything just off a whim. And people will bring that up sometimes, like, well, I think change is a decision. Sometimes, and there's a theory for that. The emotional brain theory suggests that when things are highly, highly emotionally charged, then we can change and learn very well. But are we forcing that emotional charge? It has to come from something deep, you know. If someone really wants to change, say their eating habits or their movement to habits, and they like where this success story of going from 0 to 100 just over the course still takes years, but it seemed to be one linear step. Well, they probably had a real moment with themselves that was probably pretty charged.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you think about these charged changes, I'm always drawn to like addicts. Right? I mean, we've probably all encountered addicts in some way, shape, or form, and there's a period of time where they talk about change, right? And that's great, right? This is a step in the stepping stone of change, but then there's that time when they change. Mm-hmm. Where they decide deep down, I've changed. There is no more. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing it just for me. I'm making the change, and the change starts now. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't go, you know what? On January 1st, I think I'll just stop doing the drugs. Mm-hmm. Right? Like what change is there really to make that you're going to wait a month to do? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's just not a real thing. You know, to your point about these small steps, like I'll put it out there. It's January, probably. And my goal is to get my purple belt this year. I can do that two ways, right? I can say, I know in order to do that, I need to go to 3 jiu-jitsu classes a week. And, you know, for 52 weeks, I can get it somewhere towards the end of the year. That's 150, 180 classes a year. I can, 180 more hours of jiu-jitsu, I can do it. No.
Yeah, not going to work.
Not going to work. You know what I do need to do? I need to go.
Right.
Now, the next class, tomorrow, tonight, I need to go. And then when it comes time when class is over, I need to say, you know what, I want to just spend a few extra minutes just working on some stuff, right? And I definitely need to just stop going to no-gi classes because I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. Mm. So, but anyways, but that's it. That's a change I want to make, right? It's a big change. That's a big change for me. I really want that to happen. But I know, to your point, like my big aim does not require this big start. It just requires me to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even if it's like, I think often we are driven by these aims, or towards these aims rather, or goals such as like, I want a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Imagine someone who's never trained jiu-jitsu saying, I want a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Where is that even coming from?
Right.
Because you saw it, because it looked cool. Oh, that looks kind of cool, and they're wearing it, whatever. Or that looks kind of cool to be able to like do that to someone, on the mats or whatever. But where is that even coming from? Even like the purple belt, where is that coming from? Because you want it, or because there are other people you train with who have it? Is it because you love jiu-jitsu, or is it because, that's a cool thing to have when someone has that identity of being someone who trains jiu-jitsu, right? And not to like, just suggesting, or like,
that's okay.
Why is it that you want to eat well? Because someone told you like it's a good idea? Do you have an actual reason? Well, so I can like look better. Okay, why? Well, because then so and so will think I'm better,
more
or whatever.
Attractive.
Yeah, like okay, none of that has anything to do with you.
What do you say? But what do you say to the people that go, I want to get healthy?
I say, why? I almost always ask people, well, why? And a lot of people say, well, I want to lose weight. Well, why? Well, I want to be healthy. Well, why? Well, so that others perceive me as being more productive. It's kind of like it's a thought train that I get a lot of time. Is just so that people are perceiving oneself as a hard worker, right? That's a very common answer. And so, and again, these conversations are taking place in a space that is meant for deeper reflection. And so, that's a common answer.
So if we're talking about the bridge, right? The fogged bridge, I think this is your analogy. I love it. I think it's incredible, right? It's when you take a second to kind of like visualize this, right? I think I'll ask the audience to do the same thing, right? Maybe even close our eyes for a second and just visualize your bridge, just for a second, right? Fog everywhere. Is your bridge wide or narrow, right? Are you high or low? Is it a covered bridge? Whatever, right? I just want you to kind of like put some additional mental power behind it. In fact, I'll even offer you this. You are very high. It's a very narrow bridge, very capable of walking across it. You're not going to fall. What's the first step? And I think what we've discovered and uncovered is the first step is your question. Why? Why? Why do you want to start a new company? Why do you want to get healthy? Why do you want to do these things? And answer that first question for yourself. That's step one. And now here you are, you're on the bridge. Right? And what was the Chinese leader that would go into battle and burn the bridges behind him so his army could never retreat? Yeah. And very famous for conqueror. He would go into these towns and he would literally burn the bridges behind him so his own army could not retreat. So there you are. Now pretend for a second that you burned the bridge behind you. You got your why, you took your first step. Okay, here we are. To your point, the fog will lift. Clarity only comes after action. One more step. That healthy snack. One more healthy snack. Another healthy snack. Maybe a healthy breakfast. Maybe you skip breakfast. I don't know, whatever your prescription is, your goal is, right? But one more jiu-jitsu class. One more deep work session. One more of these, one more page in your book, one more chapter in your book, one more session sitting with your goals. And the cool part is nobody knows how long the bridge is.
Or where it goes.
Or what direction. Yeah, exactly. We're all in the fog. And I definitely believe that there's many people out there. In fact, most of us will say, no, they knew. And they knew. They look at me and they go, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe you know how to do that. Knew how to do that. Good one.
Yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah.
No.
Uncertainty is the medium. If you're not feeling uncertain, then you're not even walking the bridge. You're just staring off in the fog, and you're like, well, you're imagining where the bridge goes. You're imagining how it looks. You're imagining that all the planks are there, that you just have to sprint across it and you'll be good, not really recognizing that partway through there's no planks and you got to figure out the next best step. And so, I think we get so trapped in that like uncertainty trap, really, where we want to be certain before we act, and it's super common. Yet the people who seemingly act, albeit uncertain, are the ones who actually seem to get the furthest along and build something meaningful, and I think it's it's true to also say that clarity is kind of local, where you say, well, go to jiu-jitsu, right? Well, you develop a little bit more clarity about the next step. You go on Monday. Okay, well, it's pretty clear to me that a lot of people are training on Mondays and Wednesdays that I really like, and so I went down to this Monday class and I met someone who seemed kind of cool, and they said they're coming Wednesday, so maybe that's what I do. Maybe that's the next clear step, right? Okay, great, perfect. Now you figured it out. And then, then you learn, there's a type of guard that like seems to be more appropriate for beginners. That's your next step. You work on aiming for that, right? And you would only know that if you actually took the actions. You can't know that just by like looking it up or researching. You have to actually experience it. And that's, we're so averse to action sometimes.
Yeah, and just so I want to make sure that this comes across, because the really cool thing, and we've all made change in our life. We've all done this before in some way, shape, or form. The really cool thing is every once in a while you get this like pillar. You get this like, that's the right step. I feel really good about this one. And you're like, okay, here I am on the bridge. Don't know how far I am or how far from the finish line, but you get that feeling, right? You took the action. You're like, oh yes, I like that one. And that feeling's great, Right? That's a cool feeling to have that we won't never get if we're just sitting with uncertainty and anxiety. And you said it best, like uncertainty is the medium. I think people are taught, not just, you don't just develop this anxious feeling, or we're taught that we have to have everything in control in order to move forward. Sure, in a perfect world, that's awesome, but it never is perfect. It's every time we want to make a change like this, we should expect it not to be perfect, right? I think, these like cliche things, right? Someone in my life growing up used to always say, hope for the best, expect the worst, and settle for anything in between. And I think that was their way of recognizing this fogged covered bridge. Take the next step. Maybe it's the best step. Maybe you fall off the bridge. If you didn't do either of those things, keep going. Step again and step again. One of the things that challenges me too is this concept of time. Time, like there's some metaphor. It's like change equals effort over time. Just put that into your little calculator and say, okay, what effort can I make today? Oh, it was from lifting weights. Like, you want to get stronger? It's effort over time. There is no other thing, right? You can add creatine if you want, but essentially it's effort over time. And what you're saying with this fogged bridge is you don't know what effort, all you can control is the effort, and just keep going until the time is run out.
It's even like, to describe it another way too, it's attention. It's attention over time too. And I think people can sense that too. I've thought a lot about this recently too. If you don't put appropriate attention into something that you then pass off to someone else, they know. You're not fooling people. You put out like a little project or a little like whatever, or you're working for, or you're opening your business, or whatever it is, and you put no attention into it, and you just kind of like, I just need to get it done. I need to check the box. Yeah, people know.
100%.
People know where you're that it just doesn't hold, and there's something about it. I mean, it could look just like something else. You're like, oh, that looks like kind of good. Like it kind of like looks like it passes. No, people know.
Oh yeah. Yep. And nowadays this dash is still in there. No. That was a shot at ChatGPT in case no one was wondering. But yeah, no, 100%. Yep. It's very, it translates. Right. But back to your point about this fogged bridge, I think that if people started to look at a lot of things in their life as a fogged bridge, I think we would actually bring down this anxiety, right? Because most of anxiety is a feeling you get when you don't feel like you're in control. And then there's like these like esoterics. They're like, you're never in control. You're not in control of anything. You could die tomorrow. The world could blow up. Like all of these things, right? Don't go down that path when you're feeling anxious. But the truth is you're not.
Right.
Ever. Really. Right? So if you start by controlling what you can control, which is your attention to something, the effort you put into something, the desire to take an action, and taking the action, then you get new actions, right? I just had probably the most challenging part of our labs come up, right? We're a year into, or 18 months into this process, right, from starting to now. And I just had the most challenging thing I've had to deal with come up. I could stop. I could just throw my hands up and be like, all right, I've come far enough. I don't want to do it anymore. Or I could say, okay, based on my own track record of overcoming obstacles and challenges like this, I know that all I have to do is take the very next step, and the very next step is contacting the person that I need to work on this with, even though I don't want to, but this is the next step. And that's the only thing I can do. But so many times we go, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just stand here covered in fog and hope that it passes. Right? Wait for the fog to go away so I can see the end of the road and then decide how long do I want to work on it for. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I like that idea too. You mentioned in there, you kind of said like you can control your attention. Yeah, I think that's very important. And kind of like keeping attention local, right? It's like, okay, what is the next thing? You have this problem with our labs, waterlogged kind of floor problem, right? What is the next step? Well, you have to call the person. You got to call the person. That's the next step, right? And you don't know what I don't know if you've probably already been through this, but my thought would be like, well, you don't know what they're going to say. You don't know what the deal is. You don't know, if they're going to honor X, Y, and Z. Like, you don't know any of that. And you could postulate all you want. Well, they're not gonna give me a deal. They're gonna screw me over. They're gonna do me a solid. You could think all day long about this, but guess what? You have no clue until you actually do the action that is connecting with this person. And the same thing is true for almost everything that we do. It's like you have to do the thing. We stop planning. Planning doesn't work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So my question for the audience is like, what's the thing? Right? Like, what is it for you? What's the thing that you've been planning to do for however long you've been planning to do it for, right? What's the thing that you put off and said in November, you know what I'm going to do in January? I'm going to do the thing. What is it? And what's your why behind it? And when your why is strong enough, you'll take the first step. And then when you're on the bridge, burn it. Because when you are a year into figuring something out that you've been working at and you've been taking step after step after step after step, you'll feel good. Even if you're like, you get a year and you're like, holy crap, I went the wrong direction. No, you didn't. Bridge is linear. Just keep going. Next step. You didn't go the wrong direction. You only think that way because you actually got all the way to here. You would have just, if you could have just sat back and spun your wheels for an entire year and said, well, what if in 1 year we have this thing happen and then the floor goes down? Okay, well then we shouldn't do it. No, that's not the answer. The answer is nope. Next step. Okay, next step. All right, next step.
Yeah, there are infinite possibilities in the middle, but there's only one actuality, and so you have to unveil that by taking the actions and taking the steps.
Yes.
So I like it. So yes, figure out your why, because if it's not a strong why, if it's just for other people and people said you should and it kind of seems like a cool idea and it's more identity based and all that kind of stuff, or like egoic based, maybe is a good way to think about it, then maybe have a different aim. And if you have a strong enough aim, well, I want to do this because I want to feel good about myself, or I really enjoy this, or I feel passionate about this, or this is very engaging to me. Okay, great. Then direct your compass, right? Where is the direction that you need to even go? You don't need a huge plan. You just need the compass to be pointed in the right direction. And hopefully it's pointing in the right direction. Then you take one step. Okay. I want to improve my diet. Okay. Make one healthy snack. I want to move more. Okay. Get to the gym one time and then evaluate. Maybe the gym isn't for you. Maybe it's volleyball. Maybe it's badminton, whatever. But you have to actually take the steps and then reevaluate. And no more thinking, no more planning, more doing.
And don't look at things that you don't want as bad. You're on the bridge, you're taking 3 steps, and you're like, wow, I don't like that. Cool. You ruled that one out. You no longer have to think about whether or not you would or wouldn't like it. You already know. Next step. Man, I found 3 things in a row I don't like. Cool. You would have thought about those things and wondered, I wonder if I like that. Do I like that? I'm not sure if I like that. Well, maybe I'll figure it out someday. You figured it out. Next step. Now, oh, I do like that. Awesome. Next step. Oh, you know, that didn't work in my day. You know what? I do like going to the gym. Interesting. I didn't realize I would like going to the gym, but I don't like getting up early. Cool. Next step. You know, I do want to make a healthy stack, but I don't like grapes. Right? Okay. Awesome. Don't buy them. Next step. Right? And don't look at like these no's, these accidents, these wrong going as wrong or failures. It's simply a next step. I mean, there's this, it's kind of cliche now, right? Like every no leads to a yes. Right? I think that's a silly sales tactic personally, but every time you figure out what you don't like, it leads you towards figuring out what you do like. Every wrong step is a step. The bridge still gets uncovered. Right. The concept here is that 4 feet in front of you is still going to be not foggy, even if it was like even if you stepped in a puddle. Like, okay, cool, I'm in the puddle. Next step, maybe the puddle won't be in front of you. Now we're back on the bridge. Awesome. But we let it get down. We think to ourselves, no one else steps in puddles on this bridge. It's not a thing. Like, I must be doing it wrong. Nope, you're not.
Yeah, each step breeding a little bit more clarity, and not being afraid to step wrong, right? I mean, it's still each step still bred that clarity. So now you know. So yeah, I think if you find this topic kind of interesting, then let us know. I think it's really relevant for this time of year. A lot of people will be thinking about change and how to do it. And so, we just encourage you and ourselves, we're always talking to ourselves as well, to take the small action. Don't tyrannize over yourself, negotiate with yourself. Don't be, have the courage to do something small, because it doesn't feel heroic, but you still need to convince yourself that it's worth it.
Yep. Cool. I love it. Well, good luck. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, worries, when the bridge fails, let us know.
Thanks.